everybody, and welcome to the Bruce Starr Show. I'm thrilled to have on a wonderful guest. We've actually done several shows together over the years, which has been great. Perhaps the most memorable one, Dr. Eric, is when you were standing on a street corner in Italy, and we scheduled a show, and you called in from that street corner in Italy. I thought that was priceless. I thought that was great, and thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. I recall that. Actually, I think it was Germany, but whatever it was, there we were.
Oh, okay. I think you said Italy, but who knows? Maybe you had a
Who
little bit
knows? I don't remember either.
too much wine, vino in Italy, and
Or not enough. Yeah.
so
Or not enough beer in Germany, right?
so Dr. Eric Pearl is an internationally known best-selling author. Many of you know the book, The Reconnection. It flew off the shelves for years and years and years. He's an internationally known speaker as a result of that book, and he's traveled the world many times over, delivering his unique and awe-inspiring messages on health and healing. And I'd like to welcome him today. Welcome, Dr. Eric Pearl, to the show. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Bruce. I'm so glad I could join, and thank you for inviting me.
Can you tell us about yourself and how you went from being a chiropractor, I believe working on Melrose Avenue, if I'm not mistaken, which is down the block from where I lived for several years, and something happened during those days. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I had an office in Melrose Place, and a few strange things were going on. To keep the story sort of brief, I practiced as a chiropractor for 12 years. And one night was a little bit different. Let's just say I went home, got into bed to go to sleep, turned off the light, and an hour later, I'm awakened by a bright light piercing through my eyes, as if someone had just, with audacity, walked into my bedroom and flipped it on, regardless of my being asleep. And I looked around the room, and there was no one there to do that, except my dog, who really probably couldn't get up that high on the wall. And at the same time, I noticed that my bedroom door, which was closed when I went to sleep, was open. So that was an unusual kind of a observation and a feeling. So I got up a little bravely and a little hesitantly simultaneously, grabbed the largest knife I could find, and an old emptied spray can of pepper spray from a class I had taken years back, and went hunting to see if someone was in my house. So we walked around looking, me, the knife, the pepper spray, and my dog hiding behind me. Apparently she was onto something too. And we couldn't find anyone after a while. So finally I decided it had to be my imagination, and I'd go back to bed. So I went back, I got into bed. I went to turn that little round knob that clicks lamps off and on, turn it off, and it wasn't clicked fully on. And I knew that wasn't me, because I'm a clicker, everything's clicked in place, doors are shut properly, toothpaste caps are all on, everything's like, and this was just rotated enough to somehow ignite the light bulb. So I thought, well, I don't want to think that someone's in my house, but I've got to go to sleep. And if they let me wake up, they let me wake up. So I went to sleep. All I know is that Monday, I went in to see my patients. And mind you, this was my 12th year in practice. I went in to see my patients just like most every other day. And I adjusted the first patient. When I removed my hands, I felt an interesting sensation in them. And I just sort of like looked at my hands and moved them a little bit. And the person on the table said, "What's that I'm feeling?" I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "I can feel where your hands are." I said, "No, you can't. Close your eyes." So I moved my hands and changed angles and directions with it. And he could tell me right shoulder, left ankle. So I said, "Just keep your eyes relaxed." And as I moved my hands around, his eyes started to move rapidly back and forth, something that we in science refers to now today as the reconnective healing registers. It's like an automatic response when you come into contact with the energy, light, and information of the reconnective healing spectrum, because all the energy in all our known energy healing techniques, Reiki and Qigong and Jinshin and Jirei and all the others, seems to be a part of the reconnective healing spectrum, sort of included in it, not separate from. It's not different. It's just that they're parts of it. So as I did that, his eyes would move, his fingers would move up and down, the eyebrows would twitch. I pulled my hands away, which should make it weaker. If you follow the physics of energy, it should get weaker with distance, but it became stronger and more intense. So when he opened his eyes, he said, "What were you doing?" I was seeing colors I'd never seen in my life. Blues and greens and purples and golds. I said, "If you never saw them in your life, how did you know what they were?" He said, I can't really explain it. But I knew what they were and I'd never seen them. He was smelling flowers he'd never smelled, all sorts of things. So I figured it was his experience, as he's having maybe an interesting day. I mean, he had been a patient of mine for years and years and years. Nothing like that had happened with him or any of my patients. I go in to see the next patient. And when the woman opens her eyes, she goes, "What's going on?" I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "I'm seeing colors I've never seen them, smelling flowers I had never smelled," the same words he used. And her body was moving involuntarily as I moved my hands. And let's just say on this day, 7 of my patients, independent of one another, insisted about the flowers and the smells, and they insisted that someone had walked into the room with them. They were saying, "Who walked into the room while I was here?" I said, "No one." They said, "No, the person who came in." I said, "No one came in." She said, "They were by the door." I said, "No one was by the door." She said, "I heard them." I said, "They weren't there. I felt them. They weren't there." So all of this is happening in one day. And now you would think this would have gotten my attention. 12 years, nothing before, everything in one day. But other patients, as their muscles started to move in their face, their tongue would start to move and little air sounds would come out strongly. And then for many of them, they would turn into words. The first patient had words that said, "We are here to tell you," and this was like a big guy. Oh, it was his first day in, so I figured it was him. "We are here to tell you to continue doing what you were doing.
Wow.
What you are doing is bringing light and information onto the planet." I figured, all right, this guy's just having some weird experience. Happened to 2 days later, it happened to 3 other patients. A few days after that, it happened to 5 other patients. Over 50 of my patients lost consciousness and spoke 6 verbatim phrases, which actually that continued for about 3 months. And then suddenly it stopped, just stopped. But I had been recording some of them. And the first patient, Fred, who did it, he continued. It continued coming through him. He couldn't remember what he said after he said it, but it continued. We recorded them. We held on to those recordings for, I don't know, maybe 20 years. But we finally released it in a book called Solomon Speaks on Reconnecting Your Life, which is also in about 23 languages. The first book, the Reconnection, Heal Others, Heal Yourself, is in 40 languages.
Wow.
And my life partner, Jillian Fleer, and I are about to publish a book together, we think in May. I started getting calls from my patients. Some of my patients were getting up out of wheelchairs. They wanted to know what I did. Some of them were calling about their kids who had cerebral palsy or epilepsy, who were suddenly able to walk and run and play and speak normally and not have seizures and not need medications. Not everyone had these responses, but quite a number of them. And they're saying, "What did you do?" I said, "I didn't do anything, and don't tell anyone," because the last thing I needed was, word to get out about this crazy chiropractor. But then people started asking me to teach this. I said, "Teach it? You have got to be insane. How do you teach something like this?" I'm standing there, I'm waving my hands in the air, looking like an idiot. You go outside, wave your hands in the air. Let me know what the neighborhood says about you. But I finally, Hay House came to me, and when I gave a presentation talking about it one time, someone recorded it and sent it to them. They said, "Would you write a book?" I said, "All right." And what I did was I began to allow people to feel this. Something seems to ignite. And then when they feel it, I don't mean the way we think of it as igniting as coming from point A to point B, because there is no separation. There is no time. There is no space. You don't send it. Something seems to ignite their awareness that this is our true nature. And as they learn to feel it, as we show them how to feel it and play with it in this interaction, separation would just disappear. Other people lying on the massage tables that we would teach with or practice with, their bodies would go into involuntary motions. They started having healings. It came about naturally because we were returning to the wholeness that we are. Reconnective healing is reconnecting healing, all forms of energy healing of anything else, by doing the one thing you think that it wouldn't do, by dissolving technique. See, many of our energy healing teachers there keep you coming back for multiple reasons, including this one, to learn more technique in the next level and the next, or they just don't know any better. And we think that the healing is in the technique. But ultimately, technique is designed to self-dissolve and leave behind the perfume, the essence of what beingness really is. That is our healing. To recognize this, the ego doesn't want to see that. The ego wants to say, and then I moved my hands 3 times in a counterclockwise direction while I was flying over the equator. It's not about that crap. It's not about the doing. It's about being. And because it's love. Healing is love. And you can't do your way into love. It just doesn't happen that way. So what happens with reconnective healing is that everything that obscures our ability to see, to recognize ourselves, who we are, just kind of vibrates out of the picture, falls away. And the only thing that's left is our essence. So we can just give away everything, the techniques, the rituals, the personalities, the steps. And the more we give away, we don't have to live in fear of, oh, what if I give away too much or the wrong thing? You can't, because there's only one thing that we can't give away, and that's our essence, our infinite beingness. But we can give away everything that is obscuring it from us. So in these glimpses of the infinite that we are, one glimpse sets off an ongoing series of other glimpses. And each time that we glimpse, we bring this knowingness into ourselves. There's no need to like work through the traumas and go through the different layers of our relatives and ancestors. And it's only necessary to glimpse, to recognize our essential self. And this glimpse is the true nature. This glimpse of our true nature is the key to our healing. Reconnective healing is the direct path to healing, because one glimpse sets off the next. But you see, it's the direct path. And yet, what's direct about it is that there is no path. It's a direct path. It's not a path at all, because you are already that you are looking for. There's no distance, there's no time, there's no space. And many people today are so focused on the preparatory practices and the techniques that they don't realize, and a lot of our instructors don't realize it or just don't want us to, that once we let that go, we can go directly where we're looking to be. So I didn't go a lot into the background story, but this is what's important. What's important is that we stop trying to do the healing and we allow ourselves. See, I can look at you, Bruce. That smile on your face, I can feel it because I am you. Okay? Because we are everyone. We don't need to try to feel what's in someone. We're not specially psychically gifted because we can see what someone is feeling, and stop it. All that separate self, ego, personality division here that causes us to be in fear and the illusion of separation, and to do our techniques when we can recognize ourselves in everyone and everyone in ourselves. Our presence of being there is that perfect awe and wonder that allows healings to arise that don't come from doing or method or technique. And that just pisses the crap out of some people. I hope I can say that because I just did.
So, Dr. Eric, what was it like the first time you took these experiences and kind of went on the road. Let's just put it that way. You did a speaking gig, and then you had to transform what happened and what went on to an audience. Do you remember what that was like the first time you did that?
It depends, because I sort of got, dragged. Will you speak to some of my friends at my house? And I walked into the house and there might be 20 some people spread around, and I wasn't quite sure where I was going, and interesting stories were happening with it. And I was sharing it as best as I could, allowing people to feel it in their hands and to experience and to ask questions. And I discovered that the answers to those questions wasn't anything I could study for. It was something that I found inside of me. I guess now I would refer to it as something I recognized in that glimpse of knowingness, not knowledge, not facts that you learn or memorize, because facts change, right? The brain cells don't reproduce. Well, now the nerve cells reproduce. Well, 20 years later, the brain cells reproduce. Facts are always changing. We say that they're facts, but they're not. They're just generally agreed upon consensus of opinion of people who are, respected in science or that field at that moment. But knowingness, that is the beingness, the infinite that we are. And in that knowingness, all answers and insights of import exist. They live there. We are there. So I do remember that the first time I spoke in front of a really large audience, and I was so used to electrical things happening, I figured they only happen in small homes. People must have power, strange things going on. At the theater in Madison Square Garden.
What?
Blew out the sound system, or the sound system blew out, and I happened to be there on stage. Now, everyone before me had a fine sound system, and after me had a fine sound system. and the guy who used to manage things for us at the Reconnection, he used to call it strange electrical occurrences. That's how we would call these things, strange electrical occurrences. We would do training programs in giant ballrooms with huge chandeliers. And when we'd all start working together, all the chandeliers in sync would start to swing, or shades would just flip up and people would scream out of fear. And I would laugh just like that because I was so used to it. Didn't happen all the time. It happens enough to be amusingly, sweetly entertaining. There's no harm that comes from reconnective healing. It's all love. It's all essence. It's all being.
So, as I said before, you've been traveling the world. I mean, no telling how many countries. Have you ever kept track of how many countries you've spoken at and presented?
Hundreds and hundreds, at least.
Tell us now, you're going to be, which is very exciting, you're going to be in Orlando, Florida on April 9th as part of a program. Perhaps the best known channeler in the world, been that way for decades. Orlando, Florida, April 9th. And I'm going to, people can look into it by going to
Kryon Masters, Kryon.
Right.
Cryonmasters.com. It's close. A lot of people call it Chiron because that's another word that's similar. Cryonmasters.com. You can go there. You can also find out where we are all around the world, either by going to the Reconnection.com, or you can go to the European site, which is called Reconnective Academy. Reconnective Academy. There's no the in front of it. So there's the Reconnection.com with the, or ReConnectiveAcademy.com with no the. And you can find out a lot of our training programs around the world. I'm really looking forward to in October, where Jillian and I are holding a 7-day retreat. You don't have to know anything about reconnective healing. It's not a training program, but it's in Tuscany, Italy, at this beautiful old villa. And if you're even thinking about it, register now, because we're only allowed 30. Some people say 33, some say 30 people, but it's about 30 some people. So register fast if you want to spend 7 days intimate and close up with Jillian and I as we explore a lot of new things. But yeah, Kryon, I'm very excited because Lee Carroll is a brilliant speaker, and so is his partner, Monica. But I met Lee because someone gave me his book. Someone kept giving me his first book when these healings happened, which is called The End Times. I thought, what a horrible name. I'm not going to read something End Times. And they gave it to me and gave it to me. And finally, I started to glance through it. All right, enough for the right people. I read through it. It was interesting. So I called him up. He said, how did you get my personal number? I said, I don't know. He said, anyone who got my personal number can talk to me. So we became very close friends with this brilliant man. Loved what he wrote, loved his channelings that he brought through, and loved even more when Lee Carroll goes on as Lee Carroll. His brilliance and insight is just life-changing. So yeah, we're going to be there in Orlando. Bring your bathing suits.
So what can people expect? They come into a room, there's a room full of people. Tell us what they can expect.
Oh, everyone just instantly disappears. The chairs are left empty. No. In our training programs, I'm sorry, there'll be no laughter or having a good time. This is a
sorry about that.
We're not allowed to have humor. Anyway, people forget that humor is healing.
Absolutely.
People just forget it. One of my most, I derive interesting, sarcastic humor in a sense from when I hear someone say, I fail to see the humor in this. And I'm thinking, you were right in the first two words, you fail. We have to find the humor. But anyway, what we do in our training programs, and now my training programs now, because Jillian and I are doing events in a different way. So our reconnective healing training programs are taught by our main instructors in each country. In the United States, it's Rob Koenig, and the next one coming up will be coming up in Dallas fairly soon, probably in about a month, give or take, maybe sooner. And we will be speaking at some of the time there. So we'll be guesting there, and we'll also be in the audience with everyone. So we'll be able to share our interactions with people. And we begin by sharing, and you feel what is in that room, even if you arrive a couple days early, because there's no time. It doesn't wait for you. Okay. It doesn't wait for you. So you feel it when it arrives. And then we allow you to play with it, to discover it, to bring an awareness at all to this. And you start to realize that there's no this and you. There is only oneness. We are one shared being living in the disguise of different humans. So as we receive, everyone receives. That's why there's no sending. Sending separates. For me to send something to you, I have to get it from this state, to that country, to the other. It means there's separation and distance. But when I receive, if you want something, do you send it to yourself, Bruce? Of course not, because you're already it. You receive it. And when we recognize that we are all it, the people we love, the people we like, the people we don't like much at all, we're still all one. So when we allow ourselves to receive instead of the illusion of sending, something changes, and healing becomes that very transformation. Healing is that transformation that we experience. Then we'll have time on the massage tables where one person will lie down, one will stand, we'll work at a distance. It's done pretty much non-touch. We always follow the health guidelines that are current at the time. If masks are required, masks are required. If masks are optional, masks are optional, you know. So everyone gets to, we kind of follow this as we choose to. And then we'll trade places on the tables, and you'll experience these registers and other people will, but you will change in your transformation, the understanding of who you are. You will transform in that knowingness. And I almost want to say you become the healing, except I can't really say that, because you can't become what you already are. You can't become what you already are. So that becomes a little odd because we're recognizing more clearly in this that we are all one. And so in being all one, one person's healing is everyone's healing.
It's one of the most unique events, one of the most unique opportunities that this could be exactly that one last big step that people are looking for to go from being blocked, to go from being distrusting, angry, uh, stymied. This sounds like this can be exactly what anyone alive would find value in and could help them tremendously, because we are definitely going to come into a new world, a new awareness. We're going to leave a lot of this negativity behind.
Uh-huh.
And
And we're going to recognize that it's not negativity. The only thing that was negative was how we chose to perceive it. And yet there are amazing gifts. And we can say, yes, but this person died, or they were, yeah, people die. Is the cycle of life, when it completes on one level and moves on, is that negative? Well, you have to answer that question. Is it sad when someone we love passes? Yes. Is it necessarily negative? And what have we gained? How have we changed in our perspectives, in our relationships, in our respect for one another with what's been going on? Would any of us have necessarily chosen to have these experiences and learnings through, the COVID experience? I don't think we would have elected that. I certainly wouldn't have. And yet simultaneously, can we be grateful for the gifts we receive through all experience? See, the funny thing with healing is people want they want to point their finger up to the heavens and shake their finger at God, love, or whoever they believe in, and tell them what the healing should look like and what form it should come in and how it should appear and where it should go. And sometimes we need to just shut up and listen and observe. If you're lucky, the healing will come in the form you want it to. But if you're truly fortunate, probably more fortunate, it'll come in a form you haven't even dreamed of, one that was designed so specially, uniquely for you. And sometimes it's just time to allow ourselves to take the ego, what might be referred to as a separate self, out of the picture and learn this. So I know that I did look this up. I know that Rob is teaching the training program in the US in Dallas, April 23rd. So that is happening for those who might want to attend it, April 23rd. And otherwise, there is the Kryon events, which you told me those dates. I'm not
April
sure that I
9th and
know.
10th.
April 9th, and you can go to kryon.com and see about that. Now, the Kryon event is, I think, just maybe a 2-hour presentation or so that Jillian and I are doing. But at Rob's training program, we will be teaching some of the segments, and we'll be on the floor with you and playing and interacting and sharing and conversation and being, and it's a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous experience.
Well, Orlando is just a couple of hours from where I live.
Good,
So
so you'll be there.
I might just surprise you and get a chance to see you again. And this has been a wonderful uh, happening here. I learned so much just from listening to you speak in just a short period of time. I really appreciate you coming on board. And I, again, I hope people will really consider going to see you and attending your event, because I think it's going to be earth changing.
Thank you. It's the reconnection of all healing. It's the dissolving of the dividers, of the techniques and the fears, and it allows the entirety of essence, beingness, healing, and love to meld together into one. People say, well, has reconnective healing changed? No, truth doesn't change. But as we move forward, our understanding of it and us, who we are, grows and evolves. And therefore, we're able to share it in communication in a different way, because really what we're communicating is the infinite. And our words don't allow us to do that. Our words are little blocks. They're finite samples of the infinite. They're designed for that. So the infinite is communicated really in the silence in between.
Just these few words that we're hearing today from Dr. Eric Pearl, imagine being able to spend a couple of hours with him and learning, and imagine being able to spend an entire weekend at this healing. So congratulations. I applaud you, Dr. Eric, for all the great work that you're doing and continue to do. And I look forward to spending more time with you. And God bless you and the work that you and Jillian are doing. And thank you so much for coming on the Bruce Starr Show.